Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about Bal Harbour Village, and the mayor of Bal Harbour is here. Thank you very much for being here, Mayor.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So Bal Harbour has quite the name in Miami-Dade County and in South Florida and in Florida and across the country and internationally. The things that go on in Bal Harbour are just tremendous, and the lifestyle there is really one that a lot of people can aspire to. Before you were mayor, you had quite the background in business, ran some pretty big companies. Grand Union, if I remember right.
That's right.
We remember Grand Union well, all right?
That's right.
For the ones that don't remember, it was a pretty big grocery chain. And when we were kids, we used to go there and we would have
There were Grand Unions and Grand Ways down here, and they were both part of the same company.
And how long were you there?
I was there for about 3 years, and I was brought in to actually take them out of business at that point in time. So it was the end of a very long run.
And it was a pretty big company.
It was a very large company, extended throughout the United States, went out into the Virgin Islands, came down to South Florida, very large.
So you're a lawyer?
Yes.
CPA?
Yes.
And you have your MBA?
Yes.
Smart guy, right?
All depends on who you're asking.
So why are you involved in city government and an elected position?
Oh, there's an easy answer to that question.
Okay.
First, what brought me back to South Florida 16 years ago now is the opportunity to lead a nonprofit organization. And it's my first foray into the nonprofit world. So my wife and I have long been supportive of the communities that we live in and feel it very important to give back to those communities. And over time, as we became more and more ensconced in Bal Harbour, that was another opportunity to give back to the community and bring some business acumen and the types of things that I have in my background and get involved with politics. The question is a very good one, and I had a lot of people asking me why I was doing that, given everything else. And it's because we do enjoy giving back, and I thoroughly enjoy my role both on the council and in being mayor. We have an outstanding community, one of many in South Florida. We're fortunate to live in this area, and it's been exciting.
So tell us about the not-for-profit that you work with, and/or for. I'm not quite sure which one it is.
It's for.
Okay.
I am the president and CEO of Miami Jewish Health. We're an 85-year-old nonprofit in South Florida, servicing Miami-Dade and Broward counties, as well as a bit into Monroe. We provide health care and support for the elderly. We have the largest nursing home in the Southeast. We have a small hospital, independent living, assisted living. We take care of people in the community. We touch over 10,000 lives each and every year. And then we have a campus in Broward County that caters to low-income seniors.
So, Mayor, what is that like when you realize the work that you are doing is assisting not just the one person, but their whole family, which could be anywhere from 2 to 20 people? What's that like for you?
I am not an altruistic person by nature. I didn't grow up in the business world doing what I do and being altruistic, but I love what Miami Jewish does. We make real differences in people's lives. Not only those that we serve, we have over 600 that are living on our campus, but to your point, extended families, relations, relatives, both local as well as distant. And we give them peace of mind, and we take care of their loved ones. And we care for, as a mission-based nonprofit, we care for the frailest of the elderly. And it's part of our mission, it's part of what we do, and we have a fabulous team of caregivers. I'm not clinical, but we have a fabulous team of caregivers that's responsible for them.
So as you and your team lead this way, down the path and helping those people, the people on the team, they're obviously very giving people, and not just tolerant, but enjoy that work, because they wouldn't be doing that work. They would be doing something else. Maybe it's somebody that's 20 years younger, or maybe driving trucks or whatever it happens to be. So my hat's off to you and your team there in providing care for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are there, and the thousand of family members that are affected, because that's what we do want. We want to feel comfortable where our parents, grandparents are, that they're receiving good care. So my hat's off to you.
Well, on their behalf, I appreciate that, and especially as we were going through COVID and all of the ancillary issues that came with COVID, they really stepped up and performed admirably.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because we look back, so it was almost 5 years coming up pretty soon that it started, and most of us thought, don't worry, by Christmas it'll be over. No, it'll be by summer. And the impact that did have, and the changes that have been made forever. There was a thing called Zoom back then. It was a car, if I remember right, Zoom, all right? And all of a sudden, you have people that are now conducting business that way. And then we have so many people that are now saying, I only want to work hybrid. And if it's not hybrid,
Totally remote.
Yes. And we look at those changes. And so how did the COVID experience alter any permanent changes, and how has that improved the care that you've been giving?
It's impacted us and others hugely. It has made us smarter in terms of use of technology. It has made us smarter in terms of what impacts on people, meaning that as we were unable to open for visitors during the entire period of time, we actually closed our campus a week early, given what was happening. It is brutally difficult on both the residents and patients themselves and the caregivers that are caring for them. So the use of technology, to your point, Zoom, FaceTime, other aspects of it, senior citizens really do know how to use technology far better than we give them credit for. And that really had significant impact. We were doing a lot more telemedicine. We learned the use of PPE much more extensively than we ever had to in the past in order to keep people safe. And we were, as we fondly described it, pivoting on a constant basis because there was no playbook for it. We were experiencing things that were new for the first time. And to your point, it was December of 2020 that the first vaccines appeared. And the governor was so concerned about the distribution of those that it was the National Guard that delivered our initial batch of vaccines to us because they were concerned that they would disappear.
So as we look back and we realize how it had impacted us forever, and the changes that we've seen in ourselves and other people, and when CHI, Community Health, mostly down south, when they said, we're going to take the vaccine to the people. They didn't say you have to come down, so we're going to go see that. That's when we started getting more involved in the not-for-profit healthcare arena and helping people, because we realized there's whole teams of different organizations throughout the county and throughout the country that are doing things that most people don't know about, except for if you're an end user with that. So
that's very true.
Yeah, so we're happy that there have been some changes. But let's talk about changes in the village, and that's what we call it, Bal Harbour Village. All right, we won't say the other one, Bal Harbour Village.
That's right.
There's some things that you're particularly proud of that we're going to talk a little bit about. So we're going to put them up, which is the new Jetty Project. Alex, if you could put that up. So let's just talk about where it is and what's going to happen.
This is an awfully exciting project that started out as a glimmer, started out as a dream several years ago. We have the jetty at the north end of Bal Harbour Village, just across from Waterfront Park. And there's the inlet that goes between Waterfront Park and Bal Harbour Village. There's what we call a cut walk that comes from the road back to the jetty, and then the jetty that expands out or extends out into the water. It is currently just a really concrete jetty. We had this dream of being able to really develop a go-to destination on this jetty, and that took a lot of heavy lifting. We have a fabulous administrative staff in Bal Harbour and a very supportive village council. It required approval from not only Bal Harbour Village, but Miami-Dade County, the state of Florida, and the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's a daunting project because of the impact on the ocean, the water, the current, the flow, the sand, and everything else that takes place. We've managed to get all of the approvals for it. And in fact, at our last council meeting, we approved the appointment of a local architect to work with the original design firm out of Boston, so we have a local presence. And we have hired our construction manager, Whiting Turner, as well. Both decisions were approved at the last council meeting. We anticipate potentially the start of construction on that jetty later this year. And that jetty will connect to our beach walk. We have a beach path that extends the entire length of our fabulous beach in Bal Harbour that has art exhibits on it and is a truly go-to destination for people that both live, work, and visit Bal Harbour Village. It's a highly used beach path that just extends the length of the beach. We're really excited about this.
So people say it can't be done until it's done. And then it was like, well, of course. So what was the original thinking? Like, can we do this? What was the beginning of that conversation like?
The beginning of the conversation literally was, we have this jetty out here. We use it a couple of times a year for fireworks displays. People do use it to walk on and to fish off of there. And there's a lot of filming that takes place. There are a couple of YouTube channels of watching the boats go up and down the inlet there that people do watch. And then that's been somewhat educational, because even as I've traveled to other parts of the country, I've had people tell me that they watch the boats go through there. But we saw it and we said, how do we improve the experience? What can we bring to this? And ran a couple of public workshops, engaged with design firms, and really got a lot of input into it. And that's what has morphed into this Jetty project.
So when was that first thought process?
That first thought was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
And so maybe this year, perhaps, it might get started. Projects take a long time.
That they do, especially when you have multiple parties involved. And you have the Florida Corps, the Federal Army Corps of Engineers involved, because it's complicated. And all of the maritime considerations and all of the coastal considerations, and given sea ocean rise and climate change and everything else, it's complicated. The Army Corps of Engineers told us they had never worked on a project of this nature in their history.
So it says something about your team that you're able to massage that and bring it forth calmly and have real conversations with the real people, so they can see your vision. At one point, somebody's going to look at it and go, "Oh, look what popped up." It's going, "No, we've been working on that for 6 years or 7 years, whatever it will be, until that happens." We know there's another project that you're particularly proud about, Alex. If you could pull up the community center. Oh. So this is it right here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about this.
So this is our Waterfront Park. It opened earlier this year. It is on space that until a few years ago was where our Department of Public Works was housed. So that was where all the sanitation trucks,
how much property
all
is
of the
this?
supply trucks, it's about 4 acres.
Okay.
That's over there. And it's just one of those things. We kept looking at it and saying, there's got to be a better use of that land, that we can do something that really gives back to the community. Bal Harbour is a relatively small village. There is green space, but not a lot of green space. How do we create the space that can serve the community and give them an area where they can play, come congregate, have a community center, and so on? And that's what evolved into the Waterfront Park.
You mentioned that Bal Harbour is particularly small. Approximately how many people now claim it as a residence, more or less?
Well, it depends on the day, but it's approximately 3,500 on a full-time basis, and during season it can swell to 4,000 to 5,000.
And the most northern boundary and the most southern boundary is?
So the most northern boundary is the Herman Fulton Bridge, which is on the north end of A1A by the Ritz-Carlton Hotel across from Waterfront Park. And on the south, it's 96th Street before you cross over into Surfside.
I say this tongue in cheek. How many square miles is that?
I can't even answer that. I'm not certain, but not many.
That's the answer. And the more I looked at it, the more I'm looking at, no, it's this. And I'm not even going to say it, but it's a very small town. And to have the synergy that it takes to develop these two projects really says something again about what the residents want, what the direction that is being offered, to them by staff and by the elected officials. And we know in small towns that that's particularly difficult, especially when you have a lot of people coming in and out. We know that to your south, there's another city. Is it to the south? Or
South is Surfside.
South, okay. Well, there's another city with a similar name. Not another city.
Well, okay, so
that's your village.
That is west.
Okay, west.
And it's Bay Harbor Islands.
There we go. Different.
They're all different, yet we all unify. It's Surf Bal Bay is what we call the community of three. There's a lot of interaction that takes place. The elected officials work together. The staffs in particular work together. The police chiefs are constantly working together. We're serviced by the same Miami-Dade Fire Rescue station. So there's a lot of synergy there. In the one school, the Ruth K. Broad Schools in Bay Harbor Islands, services all three communities.
Why don't you tell us how it got that name?
Well, that goes back to Shepherd Broad and the Broad family historically. And it's the Broad School, it's the Broad Causeway that connects Bay Harbor Islands to the mainland. And there's a lot of history with the Broad and the Bussell family and other families.
So he and the group of people were all part of the development, the original development. It goes back. It's quite a history about the village. And so it's quite interesting. And if there are any history buffs, they can, I'm not quite sure the best place to get it, but certainly Wikipedia has some information that's on there. And over a period of time, people will start to see this connection. There was also a law firm that had
Broad and Cassell.
Been around forever.
Sure.
And great family, and they really made an impact on us.
But you talk about history. Bal Harbour Village has a history to it as well. And I grew up down here. And Bal Harbour Village has a history of being a segregated community, an anti-Semitic community. Jews and African Americans could not own a property in the community. It's come a long way. It wasn't that long ago. It was not that long ago. When I went to junior high school down here, I had to deal with it.
Boy, they'd be surprised now, wouldn't they?
I think that they would be, but we're an eclectic community.
Yes.
We are representative of the basket that is South Florida, part of the richness of what is Miami and Miami-Dade.
So speaking of richness, we know Bal Harbour is known for its great shopping that's there. Let's talk a little bit about that and how that benefits the people of the area.
The Bal Harbour Shops is iconic in the community. A number of us can go back, and a lot of people can go back and remember the development of the shops and the open air shops and everything else. And no matter where you travel in the world, you tell people you're from Bal Harbour, they know the shops, and they'll go to the shops. And it's an integral part of the community, and it's an integral part of drawing people to the community. And
it's more than just shopping. It's an experience. You can go there and just be entertained by yourself and looking and spending a half a day there with no problem. Just leave all your money at home.
Well, and you have world-class restaurants there. It's an outstanding setting.
Yeah. So the state recently, last year or the year before, implemented this Live Local Act. For the people that don't know, short description of what it means, what it's about, and what it means to the village.
Sure. Well, the act itself is extremely well intended. I'm in the business that includes affordable housing and tax credit housing for the seniors. And the overarching intent of the act is to expand the availability of affordable housing around the state. And that is a noble cause, and is very much needed. What is also very much needed is maintaining proper land use and proper utilization of master plan developments and areas such as Bal Harbour Village. And we are fully supportive of the overarching objectives of the act itself. We firmly believe that it needs to be done within the confines of solid utilization of the land, solid utilization and appreciation of the infrastructure, and that it works within the master plan development of the entirety of the city, whatever the city is. Certainly as it applies to Bal Harbour Village, that is very much my view and very much our view.
Are you available as a leader that you could go to some of the other cities with your calmness about you and quiet people down?
I have enough to do right now.
You think? Okay, so what are some of the priorities for the council in the next year or two?
Well, there are quite a few, and that's a great question. As a coastal community, Barrier Island, we are extremely focused on infrastructure and resilience. There is a lot of effort, a lot of work that's going on in the development of our water, sewer, and infrastructure systems, developing the resilience within those systems and areas as well. We will be developing a new village hall. That will be on Collins Avenue, and we'll start work on that over the course of the next couple of years. And right across from where the Waterfront Park is today is the current Village Hall. That eventually will be replaced by some project that will coalesce with the Waterfront Park itself. So there's a lot of focus on that development of the beachfront as well, making certain that that is a safe, secure environment. And that is core to one of our main pillars of the Bal Harbour experience, which is that of safety and resilience.
So how do you balance the desires of the homeowners, the residents, the people that live there, the business people, city law, county laws, and state laws? How do you balance that out so that everybody can be in the okay range?
Well, I don't know that you ever get to a point where everybody is in the okay range. I think that sort of depends on who you're talking to and what their perspectives are. But you listen, you work with people, you maintain an awareness of what the priorities are, you maintain an awareness of what the rules and regulations are, but you have to give people the opportunity to speak. You have to be able to listen to what people want to tell you. And when we have our council meetings, for example, we encourage through public comment people voicing their opinions. If we need to enlarge the space for some of our council meetings, we do that as well. But we're going to listen to them. Are we going to be able to do everything that everybody wants? Of course not. The answer is no. And we weigh the priorities. The council gets together on an annual basis just to do strategic planning. We bring in an outside facilitator to work with us. It's an open meeting available for residents to come to as well. It's a 2-day session, but it's designed to do long-term planning. And we're fortunate in that we have those of us that are the electeds, I think, know what we know and know when to get out of the way. We have a very strong, capable team that is led by our village manager, an outstanding police department that practices community policing. Our police officers are visible. They know the residents know them. That goes to safety, it goes to camaraderie. We're an inclusive community in terms of embracing people.
I'm glad you brought up about the police, because one of the things that's been happening recently, well, for quite a while, is that first responders are under particular mental stress, probably have been for a long time, but certainly it's been coming out of the shadows up front. We know that there are less beds for people that have been Baker Acted. We know there's a huge drug problem. We know there's lots of problems that are coming forth. As I look back, it was really Michael Phelps when he went on. He said, I've been having some problems. and he was on telehealth. And Simone Biles said, "Listen, I gotta take off some time to get my head straight." And then there's a mental health day, which was wonderful. Does the city have some sort of assistance program where if somebody's got a problem, they can call over and say, "Listen, I got this problem. Can you direct me someplace?"
Yes, most definitely. It's available to all the employees. It's available to all of the staff. And for somebody like me, given what I do in my other job, it is of utmost importance and of utmost awareness in terms of what we have and what we provide. And mental health and mental illness needs to be taken seriously. I run an organization that has a full-time gerontological psychiatrist. We're probably the only one in the country that has it, because that is our view of the importance of behavioral health. That applies to Bal Harbour Village as well. Our employees, our team, are not commodities. They are assets. They are people. They have families. It is very important that we help them take care of themselves and provide them the resources to do so.
About 4 years ago, I was doing an interview with Susan Major with the National Alliance of Mental Illness. So she said, "My son, who had a break a few years ago, who's now recovering, all right, would like to come and sing a song." I said, "Okay." So he comes in, and I said, "Matt, I'm going to ask you some questions. You want to answer them? Fine if you don't." He said, "No, I just want to sing." He now has his master's, by the way, and works in the arena. So he sat where you were. He said, his mother sat there, and he sat over there. So he took out his guitar and started singing "You Are Not Alone." I'm crying. His mother's crying. I'm imagining that he's walking along Biscayne Boulevard, no shirt, no shoes, and listening to him and talking with his mother over many, many years. She helped open our eyes that people need help. It may be temporary or it may be a longer term. And so what I would like to challenge you to do is to provide more help and direction for people, the residents, the visitors, and for your staff, because it's critical where people so often would hide it.
And we could not agree with you more. Let me give you an example. We have a police detective, Hector Gonzalez is his name. His son, Christopher, has autism. And Hector, for years, and you'll see this on social media because we're very proud of what Hector does. Hector goes throughout the state and to other regions to train police departments in how to interact and deal with folks that have autism. There was a tragedy in North Miami, I believe it was, just a few years ago, where an autistic individual was killed, and in part because there wasn't an understanding of how to interact and deal with the individual. Well, our police detective does it in the community, but also does it around the state and other extended areas as well. It's an aspect of what we believe and how we behave.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I encourage you to do whatever you can in your staff, and it's really a project that my brother and I like to work on. Years ago, I used to be a registered nurse. I've worked in the psychiatric unit at Jackson Hospital decades ago. I'm going to a psychiatrist, and I said, the only difference between me and them is I got the keys. He says, Michael, sometimes that's the only difference. And we realize sometimes we're just right on the edge, and sometimes people just want to be heard. They don't want to feel alone. And I think Matt Richard really did the community a favor when he came here and he sang that. And I encourage you to continue singing your song and helping lots of people. Mayor, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Again, folks, thanks for joining us. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good